thing is on there live. Okay, just go ahead and start talking. Well, I want to say greetings to all and any who might be out there watching or listening to this live stream broadcast. This is actually it's actually related to something that you might see at the bottom of your screen that says Charles S. Finch live stream from the United Kingdom. That was supposed to happen today, but didn't. And that live stream, in fact, it's going to be an interview that happens tomorrow. But we thought we would just talk about a few things for a few minutes since we have time. Everybody, unless you are comatose or just been born out of your mother's womb, is very much aware of what is happening, say, in this country right now in the political arena. And of course, to say that it is happening in the political arena is as much as saying that it's also happening in the social and cultural arena as well. We're moving toward another national election for the presidency, and the campaign has been beyond strange, I think, for many people. It has been likened to reality TV on the one hand and a Jerry Springer show on the other. It doesn't seem like there's any depth too low for the candidates to go in an effort to disparage each other and to reduce the opponent's chance of getting votes. It's become very nasty. And it's reflective of a kind of disintegration that's happening culturally and socially in the country at large, especially when you see the people around Donald Trump. These people are being they are being stimulated. Well, let me say it's like Pandora's box has been opened, and all of the ills of the world and all of the ills of human beings are coming out and impacting not only the communities, but they're impacting the electoral process and the country at large. And yet, when we say this and we see this, the point is that this has been, it is known that this was going to happen. I think as far back as the 90s, there were people who were discussing the coming century and the upheavals that were going to occur as a result. Those who have ever seen me before or heard me before, been to any of my lectures, know I do a lot of talking about the Wheel of Heaven, or the 26,000 year great year. That is a cycle that is created by the two axes that the Earth has. The vertical axis is called the pole of the ecliptic. The Earth, however, the magnetic North Pole is tilted 23.5 degrees from vertical by the gravitational pull of the sun and the moon. And that means that this magnetic axis, because it is tilted from vertical 23.5 degrees, it actually wobbles around the vertical pole that I just mentioned, okay? And that takes 26,000 years to complete. Let me say one other thing about this 23.5-degree tilt. It is what causes the tropics. So in other words, the Tropic of Cancer is 23.5 degrees north of the equator, and the Tropic of Capricorn is 23.5 degrees south of the equator. But the magnetic North Pole, the one that we sort of use to get our bearings, so to speak, wobbles or gyrates around the North Pole of the ecliptic, the vertical North Pole, and it takes 26,000 years to complete. The ancients in Africa knew of this phenomenon and kept it as a calendar, you might say. We know of at least 4 calendars that came out of Africa. The solar calendar, the lunar calendar, the calendar of Venus, and this 26,000-year calendar, especially in the Nile Valley, which, shall we say, aligned their history to this calendar, or the forces and the currents, the energetic currents that come from the depths of the cosmos, certainly from this galaxy, were, as it were, the landmarks, or they could be measured or perceived through watching or monitoring the permutations of this 26,000-year calendar. That means there are 2 ways of monitoring this calendar. One is watching which constellation rises right before the sun at the beginning of the equinox, the first day of spring, which is coming very soon. That constellation does that for 2,160 years. And right now, that constellation doing that is Pisces. That constitutes, in thinking of the ages, an age. All right? But there's another age. And there are 12 such ages, because there are 12 such constellations around the equator, around the celestial equator. And each constellation comes into play and dominates an age for 2,160 years. The one that's coming up, and we'll talk more about that later, is the constellation of Aquarius, the so-called dawning of the age of Aquarius. But there is another phenomenon. It is what they call the precession of the pole stars, also 26,000 years, in which there are 7 pole stars that inhabit the magnetic North Pole, which we've already talked about. And since there are 7 pole stars that do that, they stay in place 3,703 years. And that too is a great year, a precessional great year. So there are two great years in play. That means any constellation which constitutes an age in the North Pole of the ecliptic, the northern precession, as well as the equatorial precession, means that there are 2 ages that are in play at any given time, like right now. So right now, the 2 ages in play are Pisces on the one hand, and the age of the jackal. Why the jackal? Because what we call Ursa Minor or Little Bear in ancient times, in ancient Egypt, was called the jackal. Okay, so it is the jackal, Wepwat, which means opener of the way, who is at the North Pole if you go back to the ancient archetype. All right, so there are always 2 ages. Okay, what does this have to do with anything that I've said up to now? Well, the thing about when these ages, these are not just, well, these ages, shall we say, manifest cosmic powers and cosmic forces at work in the universe, in the galaxy, in the solar system, on Earth, and on human beings, as well as every living thing and non-living thing on this planet. So the ancients that's why they carefully tracked these ages and their movements of these ages. They always knew when one age was going to move away and another age was going to come in to play, so to speak, whether it be at the North Pole or around the equator. Now, let me think now, this is 2016. In 23 years, a new age is coming into play around the equator, the zodiacal age of what we call Aquarius. In other words, Pisces will move out of its position at the equinox, and Aquarius will come into its position, inaugurating a new age of 2,060 years. All right? 11 years later, the age of another constellation will come to the North Pole. That is the age of Cepheus, the cosmic Ethiopian king. This is the only time in 26,000 years that two ages cycle out and cycle, and then two other ages cycle in within 11 years of one another. It's the only time it happens in 26,000 years. So you can imagine that there would indeed be vast changes in store. And indeed, that is what's happening. Because, why? Whenever a new age shift approaches, there are always, shall we say, changes that happen on Earth, or at least on, let's just say on Earth, especially affecting humans. Vast movements, vast seismic movements that change things, all right? Leading up to the advent of the new age or ages. Now, we've got two ages coming in within 11 years, so that kind of compounds the phenomenon. It intensifies the phenomenon. And this is, in effect, what happens. So things break down. What did William Butler Yeats say? What was his famous line, one of the most famous lines of one of his poems? Things fall apart. The center cannot hold. And this is what we're seeing. This is what we're seeing in the political arena of America right now. Things are falling apart. The center cannot hold. And thing is, nobody can really do anything about it. Certainly none of your presidential candidates, least of all the trumpet, as we sometimes like to refer to him. Okay, so what you're seeing was kind of inevitable and even predictable and predicted. And so what comes into what is the age that all this is leading up to? Fascinating, because you see, Aquarius is called the water man, but that's a late archetype, a late cosmic archetype for Aquarius. Aquarius was originally, in ancient Egyptian terms, Hathor Nut, the great mother of the waters above and the waters below. So if you want to understand what is happening cosmically, you have to go back to the original archetype. And when we're talking about Aquarius, we're talking about the great mother of the waters. That's what's coming. And then 11 years later, Cepheus is who? Cepheus is the cosmic Ethiopian king. Whoa. What is the ramifications of that? Because he will be in place for 3,700 years. And I'm going to say one thing, and then there are two things. These things never happen, shall we say, in a vacuum. There's always, shall we say, I'm thinking of the word. There are always things that predict or prefigure these events. Two things. Let's just talk about the cosmic Ethiopian king. Keep it simple, because we're coming to the end of our discussion. At least two things have prefigured maybe even three things. But let's just talk about two. You might even figure out what they might be. What happened in 1995 on the Mall in Washington, D.C.? Something called the Million Man March. Men of African descent, 1 million of them, more, some people say, coming together. Well, Minister Louis Farrakhan called for this march, but there was obviously some other powerful force impelling this whole thing. Yeah, and he just became, shall we say, so he just became the summoner. But was he in charge of it? No. Did he make it happen? Not really. Something else was at work. Then, but it was the second harbinger, that's the word I was looking for, of this cosmic Ethiopian king. 2008. What happened in 2008? Something that nobody in America, even a year earlier, would have ever predicted. Yes, Barack Hussein Obama got elected president, then re-elected in 2012. These things, when things like that happens, when something that is just changes the paradigm, shall we say, just a seismic movement, you got to look at factors beyond the merely human at work. So yes, the harbinger of the coming of the. Am I saying he is the cosmic Ethiopian king? No, he is the harbinger of the cosmic Ethiopian king on the cosmic level. So all of this upheaval, all of this storm, and the Germans have a term for it: Sturm und Drang. Sturm und Drang, storm and stress. All the storm and stress we see in America today is part of the breakdown of the old order to make way for the new one. Always happens without fail every time there's an age shift in the age. So this is what we're seeing. So let's leave it at that. I'm told that if you have any questions, you can post them on Facebook for anybody who has been watching this live stream. Okay? Do we just wait here?
Yeah, you'll answer them right now if you have any questions.
So I can, if the questions come, I can actually answer them right now.
You just keep talking.
Okay, I guess I don't. I'm not supposed to just leave dead air time. So I'm told that I should just kind of keep talking. And what is there to say?
Your trips in London.
Oh yeah, you can see that it says Charles S. Finch live stream from the United Kingdom. On Tuesday, I leave to travel to London, where I will be doing about 7 or 8 days worth of seminars and workshops there on a number of subjects. This is going to be one of them, at least the whole business of the great year, the great processional year, and its impact on our lives, past, present, and future. This is the point, is that everything that happens here is connected, not only here on Earth, but to everything that's happening out in the universe. Yes. We are really part of the universe in such a way that universal forces, if I can use that term, universal energies, impact us, not only visible, but invisible. Not only things that are measurable, but things that are not measurable. All right. And they impact us in a way that that enable us to determine our destinies, or at least give us the framework to create our destinies. I like to say that we are born with our fate, which we can not do anything about, but we create our destinies. And we can have some sense about both things, fate and destiny, by a fuller understanding of the great year, the 26,000 year great year, the two of them, in fact, their movements, their cycles, and their impact upon the world by reference to the, shall we say, archetypal forces that are at work. Okay, if we're not going to have any questions in the next few seconds, we will go ahead and bring this to a close. But for those of you who did tune in, we thank you for doing that. Oh, yeah, I was told to say, we were supposed to have a trip to Egypt this coming summer, but the violence, the deadly violence that has been taking place over there forced us to cancel that trip. If that is brought under control, and whenever that happens, we will resume our trips to Egypt, and we anticipate that it in fact will happen. Okay.
Website.
Be looking out for the book. It's called The Gift of the Nile. We will get it published. Yes, indeed. We sure will.
Website.
Okay, I think we're going to sign off. Oh, I keep getting new new information. You can find a lot of, you can find much of this on my website, charlessfinch.com. charlessfinch.com. A lot of the information, you can access a lot of the things that I'm doing on charlessfinch.com, my website. Let's hold off on Twitter and Facebook. I'm not on Twitter anyway. Okay, that's
Yeah. Just tell them goodbye.
what's that?
Tell them goodbye.
I still can't. Oh, bye.